Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. This is episode 14 of Petty Please. Before we get into the pettiness for today, just our regular housekeeping. If you are listening on podcast, please engage with the content, leave a 5-star review if you liked it, share it with a friend, follow for more. If you are watching on YouTube, comment your thoughts on the stories, like the video, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend. And if you are following along on socials, comment with your thoughts on the stories as well. All right, this week we have stories from a few different communities. We're testing some things out here. So here we go. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/Tales from Security. He said he'd throw out a phone book of regulations. Working security around big money C-suites was a lesson in power. Back in 2014, I was working security at a luxury corporate center. Polished floors, sky-high ceilings, catered events, everything. A big bank used it for high-level meetings and events. Part of my job was driving their execs between the center and their private hangar. I was making $16 an hour, button-up shirt, slacks, business casual. Most of them, no surprise, treated you like furniture. Like you were the armrest they set their bag on. One day, I was driving the CEO from the center back to his jet. He was on the phone in the back seat, just talking freely like I was a plant, and I'll never forget what came out of his mouth. Yeah, when I went to DC and met with him, he showed me, no shit, a stack of regulations thick as a phone book. He said he'd throw out if we make that deal. I know. I didn't react, just kept driving, like the Uber driver who knows you don't want to talk to him. But in my head, I was like, yeah, no shit. He had just been in DC the week before. I knew who he meant by him. And everything people say about the government being in bed with the banks, that wasn't a conspiracy. It was a day that ends in Y. He confirmed what most of us already knew. Power protects power, and the rest of us are static. I dropped him off at the hangar, watched his jet take off down the runway, and then drove away. No thanks, no acknowledgement, just the couch moving itself. Yeah. I mean, it sounds so sad the way it's written, but I feel like that is really, unfortunately, standard behavior for a lot of people at that level. Not everyone. I have met people who are in, C-suites, executives, who are wonderful, kind, helpful people. But there's a lot of them at the top like this. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/Neighbors from Hell. Entitled Karen cursed me out for planting my own garden. Bought a house last year, renovated, and moved in about a month ago. Up until now, we've had, or thought we had, a good relationship with the neighbor on the side of our house, whose driveway is next to our house. We even got them fruits and chocolate when we closed on the house to be neighborly. Last week, we planted small compacta hollies to create a tiny hedge in our front raised 1-foot-high garden that is well within our property line, not even the edge of the property line. Our neighbor, Karen, decides to come out today to curse us out. Name called us, bitch, witch, shitty neighbor, F you, etc., for planting the shrubs in our raised garden as it interferes with them opening their car door into our garden, walking well inside our garden to get in and out of their car. They even claim we are making their lives miserable and creating a dangerous tripping hazard when they climb into our garden to get in and out. I'm beyond myself at the entitlement and unreasonableness. I'm not surprised. Originally, we wanted to add more height to the garden and cap the top layer of the brick raised garden with concrete caps when we first purchased the house. Our first mistake was telling Karen at the time, since they always asked about our house update. Then Karen told us not to raise our raised garden any higher because they need to open their car door. At that point, we decided to be nice neighbors to keep peace, so we didn't even, though we had every right to, and really envisioned our space so. Now, a few months later, we moved in, planted small compacta Japanese holly shrubs around the garden border, but inside the brick edges of the raised garden bed, which is at least 1 foot inside our property line. Karen said we are the worst neighbors ever and hope all our plants die. Even went as far as threatening us, stating that we will be miserable living here. Like, seriously? She's 69 years old and acts out like an unhinged child or maniac. Whole situation is mind-boggling. She demands we remove all the bushes along the side of our garden because they need to climb and step into our garden to open their car doors to get in and out. Her screaming got so bad that even our neighbor across the street came to de-escalate the situation. Of course she yelled at him too, telling him to leave and mind his own business because she's been living on the block for 30 years, like it matters. This is all in the front of the house. Max fencing height is 4 feet for front yards. However, we aren't really thinking of fencing because no one on the block has one in the front. It would look odd. In addition, she went ahead and tells my husband that our piece of shit bush in the backyard, which wasn't even planted by us, was there when we bought the house, is sticking into her yard and we need to get rid of it. On top of that, she said she's been a victim, having to put up with our renovation shit, and our backyard looks like shit, so she can't even invite people over. The backyard isn't our priority right now. However, it is fenced off from her property and kept relatively clean, except when we had renovation going on in the wintertime, and materials were piled up while waiting to be trashed. This was mostly all kept away from the side of the fence near her. In my opinion, the stuff she says is mind-boggling and really disrespectful. OP, you are correct. She is mind-boggling with all her accusations, and she is very disrespectful and entitled. Immediately, my first thought when she complained, like, I need to access your property, I need to step in your garden to get into my car. Her being able to access her car is not your responsibility. And my initial reaction is, build up that garden bed. Build it up like you wanted to. Put those caps on top. I know you said that their driveway is next to yours, but I don't see how it's possible it's that close that they would have to climb into your garden to get in and out. But regardless, if they do, that is a them problem. Maybe they need to park on the street in front of their house instead of in their driveway. I don't know. I don't care. It's not your problem. You have every right to do on your piece of property whatever you would like. If you want to fence the front, fence it. You might start a trend. Several of your other neighbors might fence the front too. But I would definitely, if the bush in the backyard is encroaching on their land, okay, I would either trim it back, remove it, or move it to another part of the property. But she's being hateful and indignant for no reason. No reason. She is truly acting unhinged and crazy. And just for pettiness, for hatefulness, I would raise that garden bed. And she can go somewhere and suck it and have her little hissy fit because it doesn't matter. And I wouldn't care. Like, she can be unhappy. She has every right to be unhappy. And I would probably sit there in the front yard, like have me a little patio, like deck chairs set up, and just watch her struggle. Because after all of this that she has put you through after you just bought this place and have been working on renovations, she deserves it. This is one of those people that needs to go have the day they deserve. Ooh, I like that one. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. If I can't have it, then neither can you. I'm at short-term parking at the airport looking for a space. I see a guy pulling out, so I stop and put on my blinker. He pulls out but blocks me while he's backing up. So here comes a guy in a shiny red Camaro with a trophy girlfriend in the passenger seat, and he swoops into the space. I pull up and say, I was waiting for that space. He shrugs and says, sorry. I say, well, if you're sorry, you can leave and give me the space I was clearly waiting for. There'll be another space. It's not even worth being an issue. He rolls up his window and ignores me. I would too. So I go off and park elsewhere on the floor. Then I walk back towards his car with my keys in my hand. Now at that point, I had never keyed a car before, and his car was really nice. And you have to piss me off worse than that for me to cause property damage. Okay, I thought this was going somewhere bad. Still, I was going to do something. Maybe leave a nasty note? I don't know. I get to his car and he's still inside talking to his girlfriend. And then I have my inspiration. I put on a sweet smile on my face because he looks like a macho type who thinks women are inferior. And I knock on the window. He lowers it, looking annoyed. I say, you really have a gorgeous car. He still looks annoyed but thanks me and is about to put his window back up when I say, but wait, there's something I want you to think about while you're in the airport. He looks confused. I say, I know where your car is parked, and you don't know where my car is parked. Then I walk away. Girlfriend yells, bitch! He pulls out of the space and drives away. And my job here is done. Ooh, that's mean, but it's not uncalled for. It's not uncalled for. I mean, he didn't owe you the space. I mean, yes, there are like standard rules of engagement in parking lots and parking garages. The courteous thing for him to do would have been to go on and get another space, yes. But he wasn't required to. He didn't owe it to you. But yeah, he inconvenienced you and you likewise inconvenienced him in return. Fair is fair. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/entitled people. My neighbor wants me to mow my lawn only when she's not home because she doesn't like the smell of cut grass. Last week, my neighbor left a note in my mailbox asking me to avoid mowing my lawn when she's home. Her reason wasn't because of noise or allergies, just because she doesn't like the smell of freshly cut grass. That was the whole reason. The thing is, she's a housewife. She's home almost all day, every day. There's no clear window of time that works unless I start mowing in the middle of the night, which of course ironically would be inconsiderate. I didn't respond to the note. I kept mowing on weekends like I always do, which is usually late morning or early afternoon, never too early or too late, just standard courtesy timing. Since then, she's made it a habit to stand outside and visibly hold her nose or wave her hand dramatically when I mow. You're making it worse for yourself by being outside. Once she even shut all her windows with exaggerated movements while staring at me like I'd committed a crime. She recently left another note, and this time suggesting I coordinate mowing times with her own mowing schedule. Again, no real suggestion for when that would be, just the expectation that I somehow figure it out, which I'm clueless of since I am a 9-to-5 worker. It's not a massive yard. It takes 20 minutes tops, once a week. I don't use any strong chemicals, and the mower is electric, hence it's not so loud. But apparently, fresh grass is now offensive if it reaches the wrong nose at the wrong time. I'm not sure what she expects. That the entire neighborhood schedules their outdoor chores around her nostrils? Apparently she at least expects you to schedule outdoor chores around her nostrils. I don't know if you're just the only close person to her or the very closest, or if she just doesn't like you and her goal in life at this point is to inconvenience you. That is definitely the weirdest request I've ever heard. I could see it if she had a serious allergy and she couldn't walk out the door while you were mowing, or she couldn't walk out the door for several hours after you mowed due to severe allergies. But it's not it. She just doesn't like it. Which also is weird because the smell of fresh cut grass is amazing, said someone who hates to mow. Whatever. To each their own, but yeah, she has nothing against you. You have no reason to abide by her note wishes. So, in my mind, she's out of luck. Story number 5 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. My competitive friend was always insulting my wine, so I tricked him into sampling and insulting his own. During the pandemic, I started making wines, beers, and meads for my friends. At the time, we lived in a country where it was hard to get alcohol, and due to the virus, we were all locked out of our primary supplier for over a year. No one could get alcohol, so I started brewing again after a 15-year hiatus. Supplying my community, so to say. Well, it really irked this guy that people would trade me things for my wines and meads. It also really drove him nuts that I knew how to malt and basically make beer from feed grain, no homebrew supply shops within 2,000 miles. So at every opportunity, he would just piss insults on my wine. And yes, it was simple country wine, but well crafted using local fruits. Clear, balanced, strong. Wapatui is what we used to call it back home. His wife would back him up. I always thought this was strange because I was delivering trunkloads of wine to my friends and people would hardly ever touch his wine at parties. Anyway, we were having a sampling night, which is how I met most of my people. And in front of the whole room full of people, he pisses insults over this wine I'd poured. Well, I said, you made that one. I didn't want you to feel left out. They stayed 5 minutes max and shuffled out. Brilliant. It's just brilliant. He just had a preconceived notion. It didn't matter whether your stuff was good or bad. He just wanted to badmouth you and I guess get everyone back to buying his wine. And I guess he just never expected that you would serve some of his wine at your sampling. I love it. Story number 6 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Turn the tables on a scamming plumber. Hired a plumbing company for a kitchen remodel. They sent a young guy for several days of work. Plumber notifies me that the furnace exhaust flue is corroded and installed backwards. He wasn't hired to mess with the furnace, but says this is something he's supposed to check. Company owner calls me, tells me that for $1,800 he can fix the flue, and threatens to red tag the furnace in the middle of a Vermont winter. So I sent the flue manufacturer pictures of the flue, and the manufacturer verified that the stainless steel flue is not corroded and is not installed backwards. Now I know this is a scam. Here's where it gets good. The state has an online database of certified plumbers, and the young plumber is not on the list. It is illegal for a non-certified and unsupervised plumber to work on a house in our state. So I called the owner and asked him who to contact to verify that the plumber is certified, knowing that he is not certified. Boy, did that owner start kissing my ass. I hung up on the owner and let him sweat the fine and sanctions if I turned him in for the violation. When I got the bill for the job, I sent a payment for what I thought the job was worth. Ooh, yeah, you get what you get when you try to scam people. You were already going to get X amount of dollars for the job you were hired to do, and you couldn't just be happy with that. Instead, not only were breaking laws, but then you tried to be greedy and pull something over on someone thinking you get so much more money and got screwed in the end. Sometimes karma works quickly. Story number 7 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. How to create a successful smear/harassment campaign. For reference, I, 24 male, finished my 3rd-year dissertation for my degree a month ago, and so I moved in with my friends for 3 consecutive weeks. One of my neighbors has been continually making racist and offhanded comments toward me for a month. I am black and he is white. Whether it's comments about my ashy charcoal complexion or his random accusations that I may be going outside to rob someone, despite me not even having a criminal record and us never having interacted before this issue began. He just refuses to stop even after I've expressed my feelings about the things he says. Every time we see each other, I actively look away only to see him make a passing joke about me, and I want it to stop. So how do I create a successful smear/harassment campaign that effectively intimidates, inconveniences, interrupts, or even disintegrates the day-to-day life and long-term security of the target to the point where you turn them into social pariahs, forcing them into isolation? Destroy their credibilities and networks, putting their occupational stability in jeopardy, and force them to the point of defeat, all whilst remaining on the right side of the law. My intention is to completely destroy him in order to stop him from doing this to other people in the future. I don't think this is petty. It's definitely vengeful, but also he hasn't actively, tangibly, or physically done anything to you. He's just hurt your feelings. Just ignore him. Just go on. If you really want to make an issue out of it, you can file a complaint with the police for some type of harassment, but there's really not much else you can do unless he does something physically to you. He's just saying things. These words are not hurting you. Put your feelings back in your pocket. They're sticking way too far out there, and just go on. If you can't deal with it and you're not willing to follow the proper channels to file complaint or charges for harassment, then find another place to live. Because he's not going to stop. I don't think there's really anything that you can single-handedly do to make him stop. So just let it go and either deal with it or move on. Story number 8 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. My roommate kept stealing my oat milk, so I switched it with watered down mayo juice. Ew. He swore he wasn't touching it, but every week the carton got lighter. I put a sticky note on it. Didn't work. I moved it to the back of the fridge. Still vanished. So I got surgical. Took an empty oat milk container, filled it with a blend of mayo, warm water, and a splash of vinegar for tang. Same color, same texture, pure evil. Put it right up in front of the fridge. Label facing out. Waited. Next morning, I heard it. Sip, gag, spit, cough. He slammed the fridge and shouted, "What the hell is wrong with this milk?" I just blinked at him and said, "I don't know. Tastes fine to me." He learned his lesson and kept his hands off. I think, like, in that situation, like, he kept saying, "I wasn't touching it. It wasn't me." And then he got caught. I think I would have blinked at him and said, "I thought you didn't drink my milk." And I feel like that would have been a better gotcha moment where he would have been like, "Oh shit." But yeah. That is 8 stories for this week's episode of Petty Please. That is us done for the day. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Bye.